And um, hey everybody, this is Teddy Burriss and my good friend Mr. Randy Wooden, and our good friend Mr. Mitch Miles is our guest for the day. The conversation today is going to be predominantly focused around loneliness in their job search. And really looking forward to this. Randy, I got a few messages from people already the last couple of days saying they're
Yep.
really excited about this conversation. So I
Well,
think it's
yeah,
a
and I got to tell you, I mean, I run our Goodwill Professional Center here in Winston, and I very often, and I don't know if it's just because it's my personality or what, but I'm kind of an X's and O's and a strategy kind of guy, and probably to my detriment, I don't focus as much on the emotional side and the loneliness and some of the feelings that people go through, and and I'm at fault for that. I should be more aware of that because I went through it more than once in my lifetime. And so when you told me that Mitch was coming on, and I've known Mitch for a long time, I thought, man, that's a great topic because it's one of those things I don't think a lot of us like to talk about or necessarily confess to, that we're lonely or that we're depressed or we have fears. And I
Mhm.
think we all have them. So again, I was really pleased to have Mitch come on today. So Mitch, welcome. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's like you said, Randy. I've been there too. I mean, faced unemployment twice, and when
Yeah.
you get that note, you think you're the only person that's going through that or experiencing the job loss or just a career transition. But let's face it. I mean, as connected as we are to our mobile devices, you know, it is lonely, and you pack that on with COVID and stay-at-home orders. It's
Yeah, yeah. Hey
it's
Randy,
what
would you take care of the housekeeping?
I will. And this week I remember what that is. Yeah, Teddy is going to kind of direct the conversation a good bit with some questioning, and feel free, Mitch, if you or I or even Teddy, we just kind of raise our hand. We don't have their official hand raise icon or wherever they are. I don't even know where it is, but I'll keep an eye on the. What am I keeping an eye on? Chat or Q&A today?
Yeah,
Let's do
if you
chat.
want to use chat, man, go with that.
Let's go with the chat. So look, if you're one of our 24,000 attendees at this point, check your chat box at the bottom down there. And then if you have questions or comments, let us know and we'll try to work those in. Just to kind of get started though, I'd like to, if you are watching us, I'd like to have you tell us what city you're in. Where are you watching us from? And from there, I'll turn it back to Teddy to introduce Mitch and, well, introduce himself.
Yeah, and the one that shows up from the farthest city from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, wins a fabulous prize. I don't know what it is. Right now, it's
The
Brown
prize?
Summit.
Well, I've got a game-used baseball.
And Randy, I've got a souvenir packet of Burt's Bees lip balm.
That's
Hey.
pretty cool.
I've got a Nature's Valley peanut butter bar.
You guys rock, man.
You know,
I've learned more how to grip a baseball in the last 3 months, walking around the man cave, talking with clients on the phone, I think, than I have in 20, 30 years. So anyway, looking forward to baseball starting. But yeah, chat in your areas. We've got Kernersville, Greensboro, Wahlberg, Winston-Salem.
I don't know anybody from Wahlberg.
Uh-oh. I do.
Yes, I do. I have a good friend in Wahlberg. How you doing, Susan?
Yeah. Okay. So there's that, Greensboro. So yeah, Teddy, let's get her started.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Mitch, introduce yourself to everybody on the call, and just tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
yeah. Thank you. Well, yeah, I am a career transition coach. I'm a values-based coach, which we can get into that a little bit more, and a LinkedIn strategist. Love talking about connection, about how people can improve their connections and improve their communications, but love to love to just work with people, helping them tell their story so that they know what direction they're going to go next. Because we're always moving. We're always moving, you know. And of course, we've all moved this year a little slower or a little more around the house on the man cave, like Randy mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and you and I met decades ago.
Yeah,
Or,
that's right.
And you know, you're in the Greensboro area, and I'm in the Winston-Salem area, and neither one of us have a problem passing that imaginary boundary.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, when we talked, we said, you know what, let's come up with a conversation that can be really helpful to each other. And you brought up the idea, and I think we titled it something along the lines of loneliness during your job search.
Yeah.
Why did you bring up that title so quickly? Why did you think of that?
It was on my heart. You know, as I work with clients, it comes up every time. There's a loneliness of being in a search, being out online, thinking or feeling like you're the only one on the planet that doesn't have a job or is looking for a job or is struggling through not hearing from employers. You're drifting your applications and your resumes into applicant tracking systems and you're not hearing anything. And then on top of that, you know, we get that proverbial question all day. Hey, so what is it that you do? Right? And then when you don't have that job, when you don't say, hey, this is what I do, or, you know, where do you work? You know, that question comes up a lot too. And you don't have that immediate answer. Well, you know, you can begin to feel the pressure. You know, there's a lot of scientific evidence of the loneliness and how it affects our entire body. And so I've just been captivated by it and know from personal experience that it is a lonely time. And then, you know, again, you take into effect all of that's happened in 2020, you know, and that begins to pile on. And you do begin to think, wow, you know, this is tiring. It's depressive. And
I was going to say, part of the challenge, I think, is we don't know when it's going to end. If I knew it was going to end in a week, I could kind of mentally plan for that. But we don't know when our job search is going to end. And that unknowing part can be unnerving.
Yeah, unknowing, uncertainty. You know, what's interesting is that there was an article in NPR in January, and the title was "Most Americans Are Lonely, and Our Workplace Culture May Not Be Helping It." You know, fascinating. And then fast forward, you know, 30, 45 days later, and we're forced to be a little more lonely than even if we were working. But even that stay at home.
Yeah. So, and I'm with you. I mean, I don't hear it come up as much myself, and maybe it's because the clients that I'm talking with, well, you know, my primary business isn't job search. Even though I spend a lot of time in this space, getting people to be willing to open up and peel back the layers and get a little vulnerable and admit to it is important. What are some good signs, Mitch? How do you, you know, if you're looking at someone or talking to someone, you know, or maybe for ourselves, what's some good signs that someone might be experiencing this loneliness, which can pivot or dive into worse?
Yeah. So as I've done more and more research on this, it is fascinating whether you're in job loss or not. You know, we all kind of have these periods of loneliness. We have all, and for men, the three of us right here on the panel, it's difficult for us to, you know, more difficult in the traditional sense to develop friendships, to be vulnerable, to admit when we're, down. The three of us may be more exceptional in that because we're more social, right? So the people that are the quiet, not out in front of others as much, it's when they sense that they're not being understood, or they're not being heard, or it feels like no one's talking to them. Mm-hmm. It feels like no one's checking in on them. They're constantly waiting on people to call them or to write them or to email them. And so in job loss, we know that, with applicant tracking systems and things like that, it's a bot that's sending or supposed to send the communication. But, some difficulty even just conversing with people, that nervousness that you're going to say the wrong thing, or you feel like you're excluded, right? You're just kind of oversensitive to, man, why wasn't I included on that Zoom call? Or, why wasn't I invited to that webinar, right? You begin to start to curl in and, reflect more on what you're missing out on. And you have to be intentional to shift that mindset.
Yeah. And Randy and I were on a call this morning, and the lady was, the facilitator was challenging us to do active listening. And by the way, Randy and I are really, really good at this active listening. I'm exceptional at making you believe that I'm actively listening. And one of the things that happened was exactly what you said, is that, there was a conversation was going on where the one lady was afraid to say anything because she was afraid to say something wrong. Mm. And I think it happens a lot. And, and that just helps us, unfortunately, become even more, drawn in and lonely.
Yeah. And you think about it, if you, it's a little bit harder in a group setting to maybe say something or speak up. But if you're in a work environment and you can just pop your head over a cube or walk down the hall and speak to somebody and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, and they give you eye contact, or they give you a head nod, or some kind of, hey, I hear you, I see you. That matters. Yeah. But we're missing that. And especially if you're out of work, you're missing that too, because you don't have that little, hey, let me just get a sense that if I'm about to say something, or if what I'm thinking, it makes sense or has some logic to it, yeah. it can make a big difference. But if you don't, right, if you don't have that outlet, or don't have the people that you have commonly gone to for those bits of encouragement or acknowledgments, then it can quickly slide down to that loneliness.
And maybe it's not encouragement or acknowledgement. Maybe it's like, Teddy, what the freak is your problem, dude? That's important to get every now and then too.
Oh, that accountability, right? The accountability. Yeah. I mean, some of the most basic human needs are, we want to be seen, we want to know that we matter, and we want to know that we're loved. Yeah. Right? And if you are just not around people or around others, and it's not even people too. I mean, look at what's interesting is that the animal shelters say they're empty now, right? Because that's one thing about loneliness. I mean, is get a pet, bring an animal, care for someone else, serve, and then you're getting yourself out of your own little mess of a thought.
Mitch, why is loneliness so prevalent? Is there a common denominator? Why is it so prevalent?
Well, one of the reasons why it's so prevalent is that we've become so focused and so dependent on our technology. We have attention spans like nothing,
What did you say again? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
I had a feeling I was going to have to repeat that, right? Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. I was
Snapchat that to me, please.
I was on my phone. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's so true. We're so dependent on, I mean, take, for example, go take a walk and look at how many people are on their phone. Or the scary, at a restaurant when they start opening up. I mean, just think about that, right? I mean, we don't pause. We don't take breaths anymore. There's very little stillness in our life. I mean, we just constantly just doing. And then when we're not doing, we're scrolling and we're looking and we're Snapchatting and checking Instagram. And so when that all kind of stops, one of the other signs is if you're having some difficulty sleeping, right? I mean, but when all that stops, or when we put the phone down, we don't know what to do. We don't know, there's a big difference between solitude and the importance of solitude and being lonely.
Yeah.
And they feed off of each other, because we have to be good to ourselves. We have to be okay with silence. We have to be okay with being still, but we're not good at it. I mean,
what are some tips? Yeah. What are some?
Yeah, I think it's important. Randy, a thought?
Well, what are some tips on the solitude and being comfortable and okay with being alone?
Yeah. Put the devices down. That's what everybody says. But I always struggle with, okay, if you put the device down, what are you going to do? What do you, and so I'll share one of the best things for me is a journal. Get a pen. Y'all know what the pen is?
I've seen those.
Pencil. You have one of those around? Right. I mean,
My
there
number
you go.
2.
Look at that. Even the big eraser.
I have to. I make a lot of mistakes, dude.
Yeah. Yes. But get away from the go outside. Go outside. Yeah, we can't get and go and visit like we used to.
Yeah. Here's another one, Mitch, that I practiced a while ago, and I need to practice it again. So I'm on the phone all day long. I'm calling people all day long. I'm doing my business and working hard at helping people and growing my business. And I do, like most business developers or business owners do, a lot of email, a lot of text, a lot of LinkedIn message, social media messages. And a couple weeks ago, I decided that instead of doing that, I was going to FaceTime, which is an iPhone function. I don't believe it's available on Android. 15 people. And I got to 10. Of the 10, I can't remember the exact specs. It's in my notebook. 5 or 6 or 7 of them, they said not now or didn't answer.
Okay. Like they did the automated text reply.
Yeah, go away.
Can I call you later?
Yeah.
Okay. So they ignored you.
Yeah, and I expected that because I wasn't FaceTiming my close friends who expect me to do that, which, by the way, I don't FaceTime people for the most part at all, other than my kids and my grandkids. One person answered the phone. And she immediately took the phone and she put it up against her chest. She goes, "Oh my God, Teddy Burriss, why are you calling me on FaceTime this early in the morning?" And I could hear her walking. And the next thing you know, she takes the phone away and I can see I'm in her bathroom. And then we walk out of her bathroom, we walk into her bedroom. And then next thing I know, I'm looking at the ceiling. And then she picks the phone up and she's talking to me. She said, "I had to get my headdress on," because she wasn't ready. My point of, even though it was mostly a funny story, my point was I didn't want to just do the same thing I've always done. I wanted to engage at a different level. So I FaceTimed. And by the way, she and I had a great conversation. It was fun.
Yeah.
And some of the others called me back. None of them FaceTimed me back. But I'm okay with that.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm thinking that from my perspective, those of us who are lonely, stop doing what we're doing the same old way we're always been doing it. And that may be hard to do. But
yeah, well, we get so stuck in our own habits. I mean, we've been forced to change our habits lately, which is good. I mean, that's good. It's but it is scary because you're change, you think about the stages of change and the change curve that we all experience. we've all kind of come out of that shock of how, how do we shelter in place? We've never had to do this before.
Let's take it deeper. And
Yeah.
by the way, I want to take it deeper, Mitch and Randy, but I only want to take it deeper as three dudes talking. I don't want to misrepresent who we are. We are not counselors. We are not psychiatrists. We are not those experts by no stretch of anybody's imagination. But these are ideas that three dudes are sharing that I think could be of help. So,
yeah. And I know the two of you, and your hearts are in the right place, right? I mean, you wouldn't, like I wouldn't say I was a counselor, wouldn't say I was an expert in anything really, but
I'm an expert in
being a
holistic
guy.
theory. So what happens, and we've seen it. And by the way, I can speak very honestly to a certain level that I have had people who have committed suicide because of the chaos, the drama, the pain associated with, losing a job and all the worry. So, loneliness can just manifest into something ugly. And I hate it when that happens. And so I wonder, what we talked a little bit, but what are some other ways two things, what are some other ways that we as an individual can counter that? And what are some other ways that we as friends can help with that?
Yeah. So the first thing is, the more that we know ourselves, the more valuable we will be to others and to ourselves. We've got to be kind, or more kind to ourselves. We've got to take time to, if it's journaling, if it's getting things out of our system with, a lot of people blog and maybe never send it, but they're blogging or they're writing or whatever. They're getting those feelings and thoughts out. We've got to know ourselves so much better, so we know what works, what doesn't work. Because let's face it, I mean, some people are just introverts, and they're not going to stand up. They're not going to ask for help. But a couple of things, is to try to look on how you can help someone else. Mm-hmm. When we serve other people, when we go and do and volunteer, and that's been hard, but there are opportunities where you can reach out, and even if you're lonely, to reach out to someone else and see if there's something that you can do for them. Trying, find something that makes you laugh. There's so much, for me personally, I love a comedian named Tim Hawkins. And when I'm down, depressed, I go and Google, or I know what his YouTube channel is, but Tim Hawkins, I love that, funny. And then sometimes when I'm really stupid, I will flip, and those, the four best friends, those, the Impractical Jokers. Have you ever seen that?
Oh my God.
If I just want a stupid laugh I just look at there and I tell my family, like, I could never do that. I could never,
Careful. One of us might.
Right. I do. I have to watch what when I say never.
So
Randy, get out of the house. Just get out of the house.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I like to get out of the house and walk. Randy, any other thoughts about how, as an individual, I can counter this loneliness that could become worse?
I like what Mitch was saying about journaling or plotting world domination. Having some kind of something to get up and look forward to doing, even a jigsaw puzzle. In fact, I know it's hard to believe, but I was at Walmart, I don't know, a week or two ago or whenever.
Yeah.
But anyway, they had a big bin in the middle of one of the aisles, and it was, like a $3 jigsaw puzzle. And, just like back in the day when they had the DVRs, the DVDs, and people are diving in to pull out jigsaw puzzles to find the one they haven't seen yet. That's what people were doing. But to have something to do. Hey, I got a kind of a twist on this a little bit. Mitch, I wanted to ask you about this. yeah, people get tired of saying, so when are you going to have kids? Or are you ever going to get married? Or how are you feeling today if you're coming off the flu? And at some point, you almost wish they wouldn't ask anymore. It sort of makes you feel, it just reinforces the, oh no, kind of thought. So it's one thing, I think, for friends to reach out, but when it's a family member in your house, it's almost like that whole critiquing a resume thing. And are they really in the best position to help, or does it kind of come across as, I don't know, fill in the blank, but gee, I wish you would quit asking me about when are you going to get a job, or have you called your 10 people today, or have you done this, have you done that? And at some point, what can I do if my spouse or family member maybe is going through some of this stuff?
And now you're asking in terms of if your spouse, if you tend to be the one that's always asking because you're always asking, or you're the one that's unemployed, let's say.
Either way, if Teddy's a friend of mine, if I know he's out of a job, maybe I call him, I'm a buddy of his, I'll tell him whatever, because we use humor back and forth a lot. But if he's my spouse, he's my, lives in the same house as I do, now that relationship is different. And it may come across as harping on somebody, or, gee, why don't you just leave me alone? All I ever hear from you is, how's it going? And it just makes me feel worse by reinforcing that same thought.
So if you're the person that's doing that, right? You're the person that's asking the questions. It's kind of, the pest, if you will, the spouse that is like, when are you going to leave and look for a job?
Can't you just get through it? Why don't you just get over it?
Right. I mean, two things is, we know, if we go back to that, we just want to be seen, know that we're loved, know that we matter.
Yeah.
It goes back to even what y'all were talking about earlier today, active listening. If you can just try to shut your mouth and just listen, we just don't do well with silence. I mean, even in our own homes, we just don't do well with silence. I mean, somebody's got to be talking. It's the TV's got to be on. And so just being present, just pausing and listening and asking questions, or not even asking questions, just say, I'm here. I don't know. We're not good at saying, I don't know either.
Yeah.
That's, those are some things to do if you're the person that's asking the question. If you're receiving it, you've got to probably take a couple of big, deep breaths, pause yourself, and then, when the time is right, maybe you say, can we have a heart to heart? Here's where I'm at.
It's a lot of work.
You had one of our comments on the in the comment box. Person says that they had shared the fact that they lost a job with their out-of-state mother.
83-year-old.
83-year-old mother who now, let's just say, voices her concern frequently from 100 miles away. So, it's a double-edged sword. I think, and again, I'm just projecting here, but I think we need to let people know that we're vulnerable, that we could use help in a job search. I think sometimes we tend to internalize that, particularly males who feel like, I got it handled, I got it all going on, and whatever. So that's fine. But I think acknowledging and letting people know that, hey, I could use some help. And maybe with some folks, their help isn't necessarily job hunting, but their help is just being an ear or a shoulder to listen. And maybe that's the value. Maybe that's why God put us on this earth, for a variety of different reasons. And maybe that's your gift. Maybe that's something you can do. So it's not just, hey, Randy, do you know of a job opening? But hey, Randy, let me share a few things with you. And maybe that's what I need to do better at listening. Maybe other folks are in that same boat.
I run into this a lot, Mitch and Randy, that the people I'm having conversations with, and I'll say this publicly on this conversation today. By the way, it's 12:30. You're on live with Randy Wooden, Teddy Burriss, and our guest, Mr. Mitch Miles. The conversation is about loneliness during the job search. We do this every Wednesday at noon on Zoom. You can register for it, and on Facebook. And but so here's what I'm gonna say publicly that I say to everybody all the time, and maybe my expectations are too big, but I say, tell me what you need. All you got to do is tell me what you need. Ask me any question. Ask me for any introduction, and I'm glad to help you. I want to help you, and I say this for at all of my groups. And what, again, maybe my expectations are messed up. I don't know, but nobody ever asked for help for the most part. Nobody.
Well, you know
ever
what?
asked.
I think, and I try to do that as well. I think probably, I know Randy does too. You know, I mean, we're helpers, you know, so we want to be there. We want to listen. We want to help. I think that a lot of people don't know what they need.
That may be true.
You know, I think that we don't slow down enough. We don't know ourselves as well as maybe we should. And we don't know what we need.
Yeah, I get you. It goes back to what I wrote early on. We need to know ourselves. We need to know what are our limits and when is it time to say, I don't do that well. I don't know how to do that. Maybe somebody else has another idea.
And there's also a couple of comments or questions here in the chat area. One of them is, well, what if you don't know what you need?
Yeah, well,
Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
So that's when you ask for a close friend, a relative, to be honest with you. To, you know, again, ask them, hey, what are you seeing? I've been out of work for 2 weeks. I've been out of work for, you know, a month and a half now. What do you think I need? What do you, you know, what's the next step that I need to take? You don't need to, it doesn't mean you have to take 15 steps all at once. It's the next step. Okay, I don't have a resume. Okay, I need a resume. I don't know what I would do if I was asked what my strengths are. Okay, do that. So I think we want to try to do all this all at once. And it's just, what's the next right thing to do?
There's another question in here, and I won't go into detail. Teddy, got a clarification. Can everybody who is on this, they can see it if they're on our show live as one of the 35,000 people, but this is not something that shows up. This chat doesn't show up on Facebook, does it?
No, it doesn't show up on Facebook. And I've got to watch the Facebook channel to see if any questions come up there, and they're not. There's about 3,000 people on Facebook right now.
Yeah. Well, the question, and I think what the asker or the questioner is conflating, there's a nice word for you, is mixing here, might be loneliness with depression, and the concern of, okay, it's one thing to journal, but, you know, I sit on a calculator and compute how many days I still have money before I have nothing to live on. And journaling is not necessarily so much the answer to that. So there are differences, I think, between loneliness and depression. Is that more of a depression issue that she's dealing with, in your view, at this point?
Mitch?
Hopelessness?
I'm a little confused with the question, but
here's what Mitch, let me repeat what I heard Randy say.
Okay.
And that is, there's this lady is, you know, she's every day she's going on a calculator and trying to figure out how much more money does she have left before she runs out. Right. Is that fear? Is that
and doesn't
loneliness?
Sleep at night and doesn't sleep at night.
And she can't sleep at night because of that.
Yeah.
Or is this what and by the way, she's saying she can't resolve that by talking to people and journaling.
Right.
And, you know, is that, you know, front line of depression? And again, this is not my expertise. In my mind, I'm thinking that is a dangerous activity to do on a regular basis.
Yeah, it is. It's a sign of anxiety and fear. Yeah. And really more fear than anxiety. The fear is something that if you do not have anyone to talk with, that's when you want to get a professional involved. Yeah. You want to hire, you know, get a counselor. If you were working and you are now unemployed and you have an EAP, like an employee assistance program, as part of your organization, or you have, I believe, I mean, Randy, you may speak to resources that your center has available, just to begin a conversation with talking with someone.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, if there is an employee assistance program available, it's at no charge.
Yeah.
So if they're worried about their finances, that could be an answer.
Now, but mind you, these are people who don't have jobs.
Right. Now, some may have, some may have access to that.
Yeah, I get it.
But,
so without access to an EAP, without access to to funds to fund a therapist,
yeah,
one of the ideas that comes to mind to me is find a good friend who's empathetic. Find a good friend, and have an open conversation with that good friend about your fear.
It's also NC 211. I think it's the .org, but NC 211, you key in the county or the zip code, and that'll bring up a long list of available resources, whether it's emotional health, physical health, financial health, shelter.
Yeah.
I know with Goodwill, we work closely with a number of those entities there to help people holistically, not just the job hunting skills, but hey, if I don't have a roof over my head, or I've got issues, family, domestic, whether you name it. But that's a resource that you can turn to get the help that you may not be getting right now, just to throw that in.
By the way, that's just 211 on a telephone. So NC211 maybe .org or .gov, I think. But I listened, what is it? WFMY News 2, Tanya Rivera. At 5 o'clock, she has a really interesting program with broad sets of conversations, and one of them was about 211, and the fact that all of these, call center people know where all the different resources are and know how to direct you to good stuff. And, our good friend Inez threw out a couple ideas that I really encourage people to think about is if you're in the Greensboro area, look for the if you're a woman, look for the Women's Resource Center in Greensboro. Mitch, you know where that place is because you hang out there once a month.
That's right.
For another event.
Great resources. And I think it's coming to a point where you have to ask for help.
Yeah.
You have to ask for help. And I know it's difficult. I know it is so difficult to ask for help. But when you do ask, there are ways that people can reduce their fees. They can work out payment plans. And especially, I'm seeing an increase in everyone else's empathy during this time. I really am. I mean, if there's a silver lining through all of this mess, there is more empathy and more understanding of what we're all kind of going through. And so much of what we're going through is the unseen.
Yeah. And I don't want to pretend to be a financial coach or counselor, but I did this research, and I know that if you call your mortgage company, if you call your, who holds the loan on your car, if you call the people that you pay money to on a regular basis and say, this is tough, they have programs. Example, most banks will, I think my mortgage is with BB&T, that was who we asked, they will take a certain number of months each year and take those payments and add them to the end.
Right.
So they don't forgive it. They just, delay the payment. And Casey just threw out another one for the men in the Winston-Salem area. Check out Transition Tuesdays that meet at River Birch Lodge at 7 a.m. Casey, do you know for a fact they're still meeting? How about chat that in? I don't know if they're actually meeting right now. I don't know that for a fact. So
I believe there's a virtual meeting.
Okay. Good.
Mitch, we've got about 5 minutes left in our segment with you, and we'll transition at about 1:45. We've got some LinkedIn and some job hunt related things Teddy and I wanted to move to. There's something that we've we haven't mentioned it exactly today, but you may have heard this phrase or whatever, that we compare the job loss to the death of a loved one. And what are those similar? Why did that saying kind of come about? What are those similarities?
Yeah, well, we spend so much time at work. We spend so much time with the people that we work with. And so when we lose that, we feel like we've lost those relationships. We feel like we have, lost that connection. And so many times we don't have that ability to go back into the office. We don't have the ability to go back and see that person. So it's almost like they're not there. And there's also this fear of, do I call them? Why were they let go? Why am I still here? That kind of guilt. And they're afraid, they don't know what to say. So some of those same emotions, feelings of death kind of come back with the loss of a job. And we feel that too for those that, experience the job loss on both sides, that you're still working, and the one that the person that that has lost their job too. So there's fear involved in a little bit of both, but just not having that same routine, when you lose a loved one, and you're used to having, Sunday dinner with them. Well, they're not there. Well, it's that same kind of experience, kind of feelings that we go through when you don't have that routine.
You mentioned something about things to say or things to maybe not say. And, it's saying with a death. I mean, you don't want to come out and say, what do you say? You just say, well, they're in a better place, or there's no pain anymore, or,
yeah,
gee, your
your
child died, 10 years ago. Why aren't you over it now? That would be so hurtful. So are there things that we should avoid saying to somebody who has lost a job? Like, oh, it wasn't your fault, or everybody loses their job. I mean, those are things you don't want to say. What are some other things that
those are great examples, right? I mean,
but what we may think we're trying to comfort them, I guess is my point. We think we're trying to help them to get over it and to move on and to get past this big event, but we may exacerbate it. Another good word there, Teddy. And Ruth, if you're still watching, gotta love Ruth. Yeah, we're word nerds from long ago, but are there things we should avoid saying that may be kind of well-intentioned, but just come across so bad?
Put your big boy pants on, Randy.
Right.
Hey, you should be glad I'm at least wearing pants. I'm telling you. You want me to stand up and shut the internet down? I changed my shirt because Teddy was on me this morning. I've been wearing a shirt for, I don't know, about a month and a half now. So I decided to change it. And so I did, but there's a reason this thing only goes so low. Just,
yeah. But we say that. I mean, some of us, I'm putting me in this bucket, the grumpy old man guy. We're like, and that was a stupid statement I would never say to anybody. Put your big boy pants on, stop your whining, and fix it. That doesn't help anybody.
It'll get over soon. You'll be back in no time at all. Yeah. What are other things we should not say?
Yeah, look, our 29,000 participants, Randy, are throwing out ideas for us.
Yeah, read some of those. I can't see them. So.
Yeah.
What can I do? Do something versus asking, what can I do for you? Yeah. Because a lot of people are afraid to ask for anything. Again, I don't need help. I just need a job. So whatever.
I'm sure you'll find something and it'll be great. Well, actually, I truly believe that. But telling a job seeker who's been looking for a job for almost a year, telling them that does not help them.
No.
When one door closes, another one will open.
Oh boy, that's the kiss right there. I mean, that,
Yeah. And the sad thing is, guys, we mean well when we say that. We just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
We mean well, and I've said it many times. I mean, life's a journey, and it's full of chapters, and I've been through some not the most pleasant chapters, but you know what? I'm human, and
you cut those out of the book, right, Randy?
Yeah, I did.
And look, Lisa Allen said
Yeah.
one of them that she's heard is stay cool, be persistent,
Yeah.
and be patient. Now, again, I believe that, but it's
Yeah.
hard to tell somebody who's feeling lonely, feeling depressed, and worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're tired. You know, I mean, they're tired, and you tell them to make one more phone call to, you know, hey, you never know. You know, I will say it's a small world. You just got to keep networking. But then I as soon as I say that, I'm like, oh, this person, the last thing they want to do is network, right? Because that's what everybody says, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, but you know, I don't want this to come across as simple, but just being there and being present for someone and just letting them know, hey, if you need me, I'm here.
Ruth validates that with you. And Mitch, I'll echo this as well, that sometimes being willing to call a friend up who you know is struggling and have a conversation with them about something totally different.
Yes.
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 Rather than the thing that's wearing them down.
Every time you call them, it's something about the job situation. Yeah. It's always about that. That is excellent, Teddy. I mean, yeah. Now, unfortunately, during this time, we can't talk about sports, right? Because we usually can throw in the weather and sports to about every conversation. And then, but yeah, if you can just call them without asking them about the job search.
That's
so
awesome.
In closing, Mitch, I'm gonna get you to offer one thing. So read this book. Go to the library and get it. Don't buy it. The Book of Joy.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Two cool old dudes, almost like Randy and I. But read that book. Mitch, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it. Would you share with the group how they can best pay attention to you, find you? What's the best way?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Mitch Miles. Just search for me there. There's also, I have, my website is Coaching with Mitch, and there's a couple of free downloads there they can access. So Coaching with Mitch, and I have a book recommendation. It's not my book, but it came out earlier this year, and it is called Together, and it's the healing power of human connection in sometimes a lonely world, which is a long, long, long title, but it's written by the former Surgeon General, and it's talking about our need for human connection in our current world. And it came out in April, and little did he know how important that book would be.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this the guy with the big beard?
No, that was the guy. That was the Surgeon General when you and I were growing up.
Was that Croup was his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's his name is, and I'll probably Vivek Murthy, M-U-R-T-Y-A.
Yeah, Google that. By the way, when we throw out book recommendations, we're not telling you to go buy them. Go look at the library and see if they're a library.
Yeah, and actually, I'll put a little recommendation for that book because it really is timely on LinkedIn. Okay.
Ruth wants to know what's the name of the Book of Joy. It's simply that, Ruth, the Book of Joy. By two good friends of mine, Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. We hang out together often. Mitch, again, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. All right.
Randy, we're gonna pivot this moving forward, and we're gonna use this last 15 minutes for some other thoughtful content.
And Mitch, feel free to hang around and if you have a comment or something like that. And again, we may run across another comment or question here in the chat area. So sit tight if you're okay with that. But Teddy, you've got a tip today. Is it a LinkedIn tip, a job hunt tip?
No, it is a job hunt. Look, I offer this recommendation to job seekers that you need to be very purposeful about your time that you invest in job search. And Randy, I got an article out there on NC Wiseman, and I'm going to get the article when I stop chatting here and share the lengthy article, but I'm going to adjust this article because in this article, I say you need to spend 55% of your time networking, 30% of your time researching, 5% of your time doing marketing, 5% doing interviewing, and 5% doing applying. I can't remember the exact, but here's the thing I don't have in it, Randy, Mitch, then you just help me figure this out. I need to put time in there for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to put time in there for me. So, you know, maybe it's going to be 50% of my time is networking, 30% of my time researching, 5% for me, 5 for research, 5 for marketing, 5 for applying, and there's another 5% I can remember. But I'm going to adjust that because I think if we're not in each day, every day, investing time for our own sanity, whatever that is, then we're disrespecting ourselves. So expect for me to share that with the group later on when I make the adjustment to this article and add that maybe 5% of our day should be focused on me or you. So,
and that's you talking about your work day, because there's also time to eat properly and exercise and get plenty of rest and take the maintenance of the body part. But you're talking about that
8-hour period. Yeah,
Yep.
that 8-hour period. I still think that we, especially if our job is all about finding a job for us, we need to be very purposeful about having time for ourselves.
He mentions this in that book.
He heard me say that before.
Yeah. I think he consulted you with that. He does. He mentions that because he says you're not going to be good in other conversations with people if you don't take care of yourself first. You're going to be tired. You're going to be lethargic. Then your thinking is going to be off. So you're not going to answer the job questions in an interview if you're not taking time out for yourself.
Randy, let me throw out the other half of my segment, and I'm going to hand off to you to bring us home. Bring us home, big boy. So look, folks, we're grateful to be able to do this. This is fun for us to do. There are other job search groups that I volunteer in every week. Monday morning at 9 o'clock. I do the Wednesday with my buddy at noon. Every Thursday, I do what Mitch remembers as First Pres Church. Now it's referred to as Triad Career Network. And I'm going to introduce you to them, dude, because I think they need to meet you. And then Thursday evenings, I often do professionals in transition. And for me, this is a fun to do. I get to help people. I get to laugh and hang out with good friends. But I encourage everyone who's on here to find other groups. Randy and I are the creme de la creme, but there are other groups that are good. Go find them and visit them.
I don't know you speak French, Teddy.
Yeah, I do. It very exquisitely, as a matter of fact. So,
Indubitably. Okay.
Almost a good word, right, Ruth? So, Randy, what else do you have to offer with us today?
Well, first off, a tip or two or three that relates to LinkedIn. Months ago, I had a client who said, "Hey, look, I know I need to be on LinkedIn. I know I need to post content that's relevant, that makes me front of mind when it comes to my line of work." And he says, I get all, I understand that, but I don't want to spend all day combing the internet to try to find relevant stuff. How can I make that process easier? So one way to do that is to follow hashtags. And so if your thing is supply chain or whatever, if your thing is COVID-19, fine. Go on LinkedIn with the purpose up in the upper left and conduct a search for hashtag supply chain, all one word. And you'll then come to a page where you can follow that hashtag. And so then when anybody, whether they're a first level connection or a follower or a second or a third level, doesn't matter. If anybody, hashtag supply chain, then LinkedIn says, wait, Randy needs to see that. And so while they may not put all of that content that's got those tags on there, what it's going to do is kind of force LinkedIn to show you stuff that matters to you. And as a flip to that, if you're looking through your news feed and you happen to come across a story, a post or a comment, and they have it hashtagged with supply chain, you go, wow, I hadn't really thought of that, but man, that's something I want to follow. Well, just click on that little blue hashtag and it'll take you to that page where you can now follow that hashtag. I compare it to going to the grocery store. And if you go with a shopping list, you're going with the foreknowledge and the plan to purchase these items. That's where you would go on and at the upper left, conduct that search of hashtag supply chain and follow it. You're doing it purposefully. On the other hand, you go to the store and you go, man, those Doritos look pretty good. Or yeah, it's an impulse buy. And so you grab them. And that's the equivalent of scrolling through your news feed and seeing something that Mitch Miles has put out there and said, wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, he hashtagged that with hashtag leadership or hashtag whatever. I'm going to click on that and follow it because it's important to me. So that's a way to help LinkedIn help you get good content, regardless of whether they are a first level or a second, whatever. So there's a tip on LinkedIn. We still have a couple. Teddy, and both of you guys are LinkedIn coaches. So any other thoughts on those hashtags?
I'm a huge fan of following content that's relevant to me and jumping into the conversations with relevant, useful perspectives. Don't just eat it. Engage back with them. Hey, I want to share a question came up on Facebook. As we have, I think there's still somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 people on Facebook. Christine says, this job hunting during COVID, is all moved online. How do we do this? And I don't know all the answers. I'll share. Let's see, my buddies will share. Christine, I think it's just, you got to show up where their meetings are, show up where people are networking. Mitch is a part of a group that I think TCC is meeting virtually.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I show up all over the place in Raleigh and Charlotte and San Francisco. I find out where people are meeting, and I get into conversations with people everywhere that it makes sense.
You've heard of wedding crashers. Well, Teddy is the Zoom crasher, so he's everywhere.
He can't do that any longer.
We have just a
password now, but
just a moment or two left here. Mitch, you wanted to toss in a comment? Yeah.
I would just say, as you know your specialty and what you focus on, there are groups on LinkedIn, but you can also hashtag that specialty. Maybe it's supply chain, and then just go down and look at who's posting. Follow them. You don't have to connect with them, but follow them. Mm-hmm. And see what content's out there. And then sometimes just, you're not going to be, it's going to be hard to believe that I'm saying this, but, get out of LinkedIn for a moment and just go do a Google search of, events. And most of them are they all are online now, right? Sure. In your areas of specialty, in your subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Hey, let me wrap things up here.
Next week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got that. It's in my fertile mind right here. Or wait, it was right here on this side. It's right here. Here it is. Yeah. Next week we'll have Cindy Martin. The three of us know Cindy very well. I'll share a little bit more about her in a moment. But when it comes to LinkedIn, all three of us are LinkedIn coaches, and we help people do a better job of understanding LinkedIn and why they should care and how to make it work for them. I run our Goodwill Professional Center here in Winston. Obviously, as you can see behind me, I'm working remotely. So I'm happy to talk to you. Everything we do is free. We work by appointment. I don't hold weekly clubs like you guys do or are part of. So again, we're slightly different, but we're all in the same sandbox. We all care. We all want to help. We all have knowledge. We all have contacts, and we want to be there to help you. So I do want to remind you, we do 2 LinkedIns a week on Thursdays from 10 until noon. That's tomorrow. Okay. We do those 10 until noon, and that's for beginner to intermediate. And a lot of folks are in that early stage of never needing LinkedIn, or they didn't think they did until now they're unemployed. And so we've got that. And then on Tuesdays at 2, I do a Q&A kind of a setup where intermediate to advanced users may just have a quick question. So again, it's all free. You have to find me on LinkedIn, email me. I'll email back the link to you. Mitch, thank you again for coming in. And again, it's been years since we first met, but I followed your career throughout the years, and you're doing great work. I know you do work with fighting cancer and just a whole host. So you're one of the good guys, and I really appreciate you coming out. And
well, thanks for letting me hang out with you good guys today too. Yeah, it's been fun, and just wish you all the best and all y'all's success. And
and so
connected.
We will. Next week, Cindy Martin, Cindy with an S. And I'll save that story for next week as to our first meeting that she and I had. But she is the owner, president of Smartin International. And if you ever need fine points on professionalism, communication skills, etiquette, you name it, Cindy, if Cindy doesn't know it, you don't need to know it. All right. So she will tell you and show you, and which is nice because we can do it on a camera, some things to help you separate yourself from your other job-seeking competitors. So that'll be next week, Wednesday. It'll be July 1st from noon until 1 right here on Lunch with Randy and Teddy. Thanks again, Mitch.
You got it.
Have a good day. See you now.